Hi, hello, and welcome back to the Madness and Meaning podcast. My favorite episodes of this podcast are always the ones where I can just speak into something that I'm presently moving through in the context of the topic. And Amanda came to me with a topic idea that was presented to her that was just in her awareness, I guess, this week. And when she presented it to me, I was like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm in process of like learning this more deeply in my life. It's almost like a lesson that I've been undergoing for like the last 7 years, but I have the most resistance to this lesson, so it tends to take a while for it to really sink in. And then there's like different levels and layers to learn in this lesson. And overarching, it's really about presence. And the topic that Amanda presented was the paradox that the future is better than the present. And I very much live my life in that paradox, even though I quote unquote know better. And I've been watching myself do it so extremely recently, where I genuinely think I'm spending the vast majority of my time future planning, like not ever actually doing anything to be present now, but like even if I'm just sitting in meditation, I'm starting to think about a future decision that I need to make or what's going to be the best thing to do here. What if this happens and that happens and blah, blah, blah. I'm so much in the future and I'm so aware of how much suffering I'm in because that's how I'm operating. And it's so interesting to have to keep revisiting this lesson because, like I said, it's been like a several year journey for me up until this point of it kind of seems like life is teaching me that the more I try to plan for the future, the more it's not going to work. Like, the more I try to control the outcomes of my future, the more it's going to go in the complete opposite direction. And I've gotten that lesson so many times and have had so many like awakening moments where I'm finally like, okay, I surrender. And I stop trying to control the future. And then everything like works out better than I ever could have imagined. And I'm like, wow, why would I ever try to control my future ever again? And then I do every time. Um, so yeah, I'm excited to explore this idea. Like you presented it as the paradox, right? Like
Yeah.
what about this idea that the future is better than the present makes it paradoxical?
Well, we're only ever living in the present, and the future is just a concept, right? Like we don't really know what it holds, but we like to plan for it and we get excited about it and we kind of live for what's going to happen next. That it becomes very difficult to not only enjoy what's happening right now, but like fully actually experience it. We're always on to the next thing, on to the next thing. Is it going to be so amazing when I blank? Is it going to
Yeah.
be so fantastic when this blank happens, or when I achieve this thing, or when I'm in this location, or when I whatever? Right. And so we're always anticipating the pleasure of the future and sort of foregoing the peace and the pleasure in the present in doing so. And so it kind of creates this paradox where we are sort of not acknowledging the pleasure that's here because we're so
Yeah.
focused on the pleasure that's coming, and whatever's coming is got to be better, or we're going to make sure that it's better than what's
Yeah.
here right now.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it also makes it paradoxical that like technically the future only ever exists in the now.
Yeah.
Like the future is just a thought of something that we're having in the present moment. And so the paradox is that when we're saying that the future is better than the now, what we're really trying to say is that being in the now and having thoughts about something that I'm lacking right now is better than just being in the now. And that's not true. Because when we're in our thoughts, thinking about the future, thinking about what's not good enough about now that needs to change in the future in order for us to be okay, we are in lack. We're suffering in some way, shape, or form. And so it's not better at all.
But it's also, I love what you said. And then to build on that, when we're thinking about how the future is going to be better than the present, it's not the actual future circumstances that's creating our excitement for the future. It's our thought about it that is
Yeah.
taking place in the now.
Right.
So we're sort of living through that thought of what will be now and
Yeah.
saying, well, when this happens, it's going to be so great. But it's just the perception of what's going to happen that's creating that lack and excitement.
Yes. And something that you said in our like pre-recording conversation is that it's not even the circumstances of the future that get us excited. It's who we believe that we would have to become in order to have that reality that excites us. And I think that's such a brilliant point because we like automatically by envisioning future circumstances that we want, we have an automatically associated version of ourselves that we don't feel like we can own and claim as ourselves right now in the present moment. And so we're future projecting it, saying that this is not who I am now, this version of myself who's happy or more free or at peace or more connected or more happy or more in love with life, with herself, with other people. Like that version of me can't, it's not who I am. I need to go out and get it. I need to go out and become that version of me. But I think an idea that could be really interesting to explore, whether it's true, is that if we can envision a version of ourselves, we already are there. It already exists within us. We're just not owning it as who we are. Because if we couldn't see it, if we couldn't envision an aspect or a version of ourselves, then it wouldn't exist.
That's so interesting because I've been having a lot of conversations with my higher self recently, all about manifestation. My favorite topic.
People need to watch YouTube for that.
And side note, I'm triggered by manifestation talk, and I just figured out why.
Mm, do tell.
The concept of manifestation is sort of watered down quite a bit, and the nuances of it get lost, which bothers me. But that goes for every subject because the more you study something, the more you understand it, and then it gets translated into layman terms, then some of it gets lost in translation. But sometimes the topic of manifestation is used to prey on people's fears, doubts, unconscious limitations, or pain.
Yeah.
And that bothers me. And so there's this feeling of someone not being fully authentic when they're discussing manifestation because they're using it in a bit of a manipulative way. And so that's why I get triggered by that conversation in general. But the actual topic of manifestation is actually very fascinating on its own. And I was talking about this with my higher self, and in the spirit world, manifestation is instantaneous. It's the thought that literally then creates the reality. There is no like time in between. It's just you think it and it's there. But in this physical world, you have the thought about something, and then a whole bunch of time has to go by, usually, where you're consistently thinking the thought over and over and over again, feeling the truth of it inside of you, and then taking consistent action in alignment with those things for then the manifestation to be expressed, experienced in the physical. But when
Yeah.
we're talking about thinking about the future, we're just thinking about a reality in the future. We haven't created it yet. And we're telling ourselves that's going to be better than what I'm experiencing now. So we are actually manifesting a reality that we're living inside of up here in our mind that then we're then sort of not allowing ourselves to fully experience now because we're telling ourselves it's not possible now. I can't feel this now. It's not available to me now. It's only going to be available to me under those circumstances. And yet you've already manifested it internally just by thinking about it. It just hasn't appeared externally, but the experience of it is happening inside of you. You're just not fully letting it in.
Mhm. And
A bit of a
how do we go
tangent.
about changing that? Like, is there a way to start fully letting it in?
Well, I think that there's a bit of a disconnect that we have to explore here between the physical reality outside of us and the internal reality inside of us. And
Yeah.
we're so focused on what's happening outside of us and allowing that to dictate how we feel about us internally, how we feel about ourselves, and how we just feel in general, where we're not even noticing that those feelings are already alive.
Mm.
They're already there.
Yeah.
Um, and so it's just about shifting your focus. It's just so hard to do because we're living inside of a physical reality. And so we're constantly like uh conversing with and interacting with our physical environment. So I do think that it may not be, I don't want to use the word realistic, but it's very challenging to only rely on your internal environment to dictate how you're feeling about you
Mm.
when nothing outside of you changes. It's
Yeah.
hard to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. And maybe we can just accept that as part of this human experience and this
Yeah.
game that we came here to play, where there is inevitably that disconnect.
It's like a longing that
Hmm.
we experience here that I don't know exists there
Yeah.
because there is only the now. I mean, there's only the now here too, but
Yeah.
we have a perception that the future will be different. So we're longing for it. Whereas on the other side, it's just created instantaneously. So there's no lag time there. It might
Hmm.
be interesting to explore what that longing is and how to shift that, how to be with that, how to recognize when that's there, how to change your relationship with that.
The way that my mind is conceptualizing this is around the idea of like the difference between moving towards pleasure and moving away from pain. Because this longing and like this conversation that you and I are having about like wanting to step into a better future or a version of ourselves that we prefer than who we don't think we are right now, like it very much chimes with like we're moving towards more pleasure, more peace, more happiness, more joy, more connection, more love, more whatever. But I feel like this, when I really tune into this sense of longing, it feels like suffering to me. It feels like I'm trying to, like, yes, I'm lacking something that I want, but it also is like I want to escape and get out of where I am at the same time.
You're remembering a version of you that you've forgotten. I can expand on what I mean by
Please
that.
do. Please do.
I saw your face just go blank. Like, what do I do with that? There's a part of our soul remembering that remembers that who we are is love, that who we are is like all things,
Yeah.
limitlessness, enoughness. And this, we tend to forget that that's what we really are because we become immersed inside of this physical world where nobody feels that way.
Yeah.
And there's like wrongness in feeling that way. Just enough as you are that think that there's always something about you that has to change in order to feel better, and we never quite get there. So
Mhm.
this constant longing for 95 years or however long you manage to live for until it's over.
Right.
It's a very pessimistic thought, but it's almost like you're remembering this version of you that could be, that you don't believe actually exists right now.
Yeah. And how easy is it to justify that that version of ourselves doesn't exist right now?
There is so much resistance to embracing our own greatness.
Yes.
So much. And from personal experience, I'm only just starting to let myself like embody it. And I have
Yeah.
noticed looking back that it's been a very gradual, slow releasing and relaxing into it. There's
Mhm.
something so threatening about owning that, like letting it
Right.
fully just be felt.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, and what is that threat that we perceive? It's of other people not agreeing with us, of being rejected, abandoned, shamed, of being wrong, of not being safe as a result of all of that experience. Like there's so many different ways that that threat might sound in the conscious mind, but I think inevitably it is just a lack of safety that we've associated with owning the truth of who we are and allowing that truth to be great.
I think that there's like a physical component to this too, where it feels different to feel unconditional love than it feels like somatically, than it feels to feel like tension and
Yeah.
slightly more like anxiousness or whatever it is that's there too. And there's something a little bit, I think, threatening to the nervous system to just
Yeah,
like let in an abundance of unconditional love.
totally. Because we've associated that tense, anxiety, stressed out feeling with protection.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. Like this is how we've all learned to protect ourselves, to be tense, to be future projecting everything that's going to go wrong, assuming the worst case scenario, thinking negatively about ourselves, perceiving ourselves in the world and others in a negative light. It's protective of a lot of things that we felt and experienced when we were younger that we didn't know how to move through with love and presence.
When you look at a baby, they're
Open.
just, yeah,
Yeah.
they just scream and they just let it all out. And then they just change and they're just like quiet or laughing. Like they don't hold back. They just express what's there. And it's interesting how over time we develop armor to that,
Yes.
even though the tension is uncomfortable. It's
Yes.
almost like it's almost like we feel like we have to carry it
Yeah.
and that there's something wrong in letting that go. Like
Yes.
we're not deserving of letting it go.
Not deserving of it and not being safe to let it go feel different to me, but they also might be similar. I'm curious to explore that because when we say like I'm not worthy of something or I'm not deserving of something, I have a hard time like
I know.
applying that to myself,
I know. We've talked
even
about
though I
this
know it's
before.
there. Yeah, like it's like obviously like I can't even deny that there's aspects of myself that say I'm not worthy or I don't deserve XYZ good things, but doesn't tend to like sound that way in my conscious awareness.
I don't think most of us walk around and think that we're unworthy,
True.
but
Yeah.
I think that there's it's felt.
Yes.
Um, Not feeling like something is possible for you, not feeling like you're capable of something, not feeling like you have the talent, or not feeling like you're smart enough, funny enough, like
Yeah.
you could
My
ground it.
version of it is I'm not, there's something wrong with me. That's like my most common narrative of
Yeah.
unworthiness.
For me, it tends to be like yeah, like I'm missing something that someone else
I'm
has
not
that I
enough.
don't. Yeah, a not enoughness. Exactly. I
Yeah.
think that they're all sort of grounded into the same place, but then
Yes.
there's a degree of both safety and lack of safety that they cause in holding on to those belief systems. Like
Mhm.
they're protective and protecting from something at the same time.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
totally.
Like they are protecting us from potential pain that we might feel in opening in letting it go. And they are also um they're protecting against their hold on, I'm getting lost in my thoughts. They're protecting against pain if we were to let them go, but there's also like pain that was created that is there is why we are feeling those things. We
Mm.
experienced pain and then we armored up.
Yes. The pain is still there though. And that's the
Yeah.
irony is that we have these protective mechanisms and we hold on to these belief systems to try to protect ourselves and armor ourselves from the pain, but those strategies actually keep the pain.
So then why do we believe that the future will free us from that?
Is it as simple as it's just a nice thought?
Yeah. Something will change and I will no longer feel this way.
Like that hope is easy to access, I think. Like the hope of things being better in the future. It's easy. It's easier to conceptualize and hold on to that to anchor us into feeling okay about the present moment versus just anchoring into being okay in the present moment because it's okay and no other reason. It's not because things will be okay in the future. It's like things are okay now, even though I don't have evidence of it technically because I'm in pain or because my bank account is this or because XYZ. Like our ego needs to justify, it needs to find external reasons to hold on to a belief.
Isn't it interesting that the same outcome happens regardless of which option you choose?
Explain that.
Like you can say, okay, things will get better. And that for a moment allows you to feel better,
That's
knowing
right.
that things will get better.
Yeah.
Or you can choose to say, no, I can feel peace right now. And then you do.
Yeah. Like even if things don't get better, which is another way of saying like
Yeah.
unconditionally, things are okay. I'm okay. I am safe. But like the ego can't hold on to that. It needs something to hold to justify.
What is the drawback? So we've established that you can reach the same state of being regardless of which option you choose. You can feel peace right now if you anchor into the knowing things will get better in the future, or you
Yeah.
can feel peace right now by just letting it
Hmm.
in the now, regardless of what happens in the future.
Yeah. So what's the drawback to the future projection?
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that the peace that we access when we tell ourselves, I'm not okay now, but I will be when things get better in the future, is so minuscule and limited and conditional. And this comes back to this concept. I think you and I have referenced this so many times around like Kyle Cease's idea of security. Like if money equals security, which is something that we all think, right? Like more money equals more security. But if money equals security, it doesn't matter how much money you have, you'll be afraid of losing it because it's conditional and you're not going to feel secure, ironically. Because if the money is your security, then that money could go away. So you're not actually ever going to feel secure. And I think that same concept applies here, where it's like, my okayness is conditional on something that I can't control that's not here now, something in the future. And so, even if I do my absolute best to prove to myself that things will probably get better in the future, like I have all of these reasons to justify, like, look, this is going to happen. I have this person, I have that thing lined up, and this person would never betray me, and blah, blah, blah. And that's why things are probably very likely, like 99% chance, going to get better in the future. Therefore, I should feel okay. But it's that 1%, the unknown, the unpredictability and the intangibility of something that's not here now that creates that insecurity of that what if, like that condition could be inaccessible. And therefore, the okayness that we're wanting to embody now based on a future projection is less accessible because it feels wrong or unsafe to hold on to it when there isn't a guarantee of that condition.
Isn't it interesting that you mentioned the unknown being the source of like the potential 1% that could create that piece crumbling,
Yeah.
but it also could be the opening to
Yes.
creating peace, like the unknown. the fact that you're not sure what's going to happen
Yes,
could be a very exciting thought too. And that could create a lot of peace in the
but
present.
not by default.
Yeah,
Not
I
at
know.
all by default. Unknown is so negative, terrifying. And I can see why. Like so much of our pain and suffering when we were younger came from things we didn't predict happening.
Yeah,
And so that unknown, and this is what I think is the source of anxiety, right? We're young and we're more open, we're more carefree, we're in the moment, we're just like assuming that everything is okay, and then something happens and it causes pain. It causes disturbance to our peace, it causes suffering, and then the mind goes, I should have saw that coming. Or had I saw that coming, had I known that was going to happen, it wouldn't have been as painful. I could have prepared myself for it, or I could have prevented it from happening. So many different contexts that that could be applied from like someone shamed you or someone embarrassed you for something. Had I known that they were going to judge me for that, I could have changed myself or not said the thing or not wore the thing or whatever. Or had I known that that person was going to take what I said and twist my words and then cause everyone to turn against me and abandon me and reject me, then I wouldn't have said it, right? Like, had I known these things, then I wouldn't have been in pain. And so we associate what's unknown and what we can't predict in the present moment about the future is what causes us pain and suffering. But you're so right, so much peace. And like if we really give ourselves the ability to look at what
right,
has been the source of so much love, peace, joy, excitement, it's almost always been from things that we didn't plan either.
right.
Like a
Yeah.
person coming into your life or a spontaneous day that happened or an event that happened or a joke that someone told. Like it's all from the unknown that the most exhilarating emotions happen, but we so often solely focus on the pain that comes with the unknown.
But it's not the unknown that creates the pain. It's the memory of what you're associating it with. And so if you can separate the two, then you can have the experience of both, where the unknown created pain in the past, but maybe now it's the source of hope or potential. And then we come back to the future projection again, where it can be a source of excitement for possibility. Like the future is all about, I think that that's what this is that the future is possibility. And you can't really see possibility in the now moment because we manifest so slowly here.
Right.
And so there's
Yeah.
something super exciting about, well, who knows what's going to happen? Like it could be so incredibly amazing. Oh, now I'm so excited for that to happen. I can't wait to see what that's going to feel like.
Yeah.
I was sort of like waiting for that. And yet it's an experience of you inside of that future potential that you're really looking for. And the experience of you inside it is available now. But I think the other part of this is that when you're experiencing it now, nobody can see it. Only you
Uh,
can.
it can't be
And there's
validated.
something about that that
Yes.
changes the experience of it. When other people see it too, that's different.
Yeah. Yeah.
Why
Because
is that?
I mean, if someone sees that you're specifically happy, right? Like, oh, you're in a good mood. Why? Like even they need to know why. So we need to have a reason why. Like I think that's so deeply wired in our minds that like we can't just be happy and at peace by default. We need a reason to be able to justify it so that people agree with it.
Or is it that when they can validate what we've accomplished, who we've become, we can
Yeah,
feel that much more satisfied inside of who we are. Whereas when it's just
true.
an internal experience, and you don't have anyone to reflect it back to you.
Uh-huh.
Notice me, right? Then it
Yeah,
doesn't feel as big, it doesn't feel as satisfying.
so true. Yeah. I want to come back to this idea of like moving towards pain, or sorry, moving towards pleasure in the future versus moving away from pain in the present moment. Because when you first presented me this topic, the paradox that the future is better than the present moment, like my lived experience and most recent experience of it does feel more potently like I'm using the projection of a better future to escape the pain of now.
Sure.
And even though like sometimes my focus changes, like it's like I'm excited about this thing that is going to bring me more excitement or more fun or more joy or more connection or more excitement or more confidence or whatever. It's like, okay, but like really it's because I'm not feeling those things now and I'm in pain because of it.
Hmm.
And so what is it that I'm trying to escape by future projecting and trying to get to somewhere else and assuming that somewhere else and planning for that somewhere else is going to get me out of. And I think a lot of it is um like this melancholy, like this very like going through the motions a lot. Like when I feel like I'm just kind of numb and I'm going through the motions and I'm not engaged in my life, that's when I'm future planning the most because I just feel like I'm dead. What is that? What is that word where you're just apathetic?
Yeah.
Feel very apathetic during these times.
I think I think for me, it's a little different
Yeah.
where, and everyone's experience of this is going to look a little different. But for me, it's sort of, I have these like highlights and I'm just always living from one to the next. And it,
Yeah.
in the sort of what you were saying, I don't necessarily feel apathetic in between, but it's sort of like I finish one and I'm just planning for the next one. And
Right.
it's not that I'm apathetic of the present, but I'm already living inside of the next one
Hmm.
as if it's happening now. I'm just planning for it. I'm thinking about it. I'm anticipating it. And
Yeah.
so all of the things that I'm expecting it to bring me, I'm just so focused on that. I'm not letting myself feel them yet, but I'm trying to make sure that I do.
Yes. I relate to that too. It's like a weird like combination of both like trying to escape where I am and trying to get something else in the future that I want that I don't have now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And when you brought up how even meditation has become almost this way of planning for the future, that is literally my best meditations are when I'm just lying there and just like feeling my body vibrate.
Yes.
Those are the best ones. And
Yes.
lately, it's like I get into meditation, it's like, tell me about this. What can I do about that? It's like I'm working the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or like, tell me about the nature of consciousness. I want to understand all of it. And it's just
Right.
like by the end, I'm exhausted.
Yeah. I feel that.
And it becomes this another way of trying to get something out of it so that I can reap the reward sometime in the future from it.
Yes.
And so every
Exactly.
activity, the same for exercise.
Uh-huh.
It started out, actually, that's not true. Exercise was never about feeling good and sweating and the endorphins like we're always fed that it
Yeah.
should be, right? Like you're working out so that you can have more energy and you can feel lighter and you can no, for some people it might be, but for me it was
Sure.
always future planning so that I can feel confident in the bathing suit, so that I can feel really good here, so that I can lift this amount of weight at this next competition. Like it was always used as a way to
Yes.
plan for the next big goalpost.
Yeah, well, even in the idea that like it's about having more energy and it's about feeling good, it's still sort of in
Yeah.
that future projection though,
Yeah.
because the idea of working out is very much like be in discomfort now, like
Yeah.
be in
Yeah.
physical discomfort now and tolerate it
Right.
so that you will have some benefit later. And as I've really started to separate myself from a lot of that behavior, and again, this has been like a several year long journey, and I think that exercise was a way that I started to play with it in a way that felt really accessible and safe for me. And I've very much like transitioned so deep into the like gentle exercise land of things where I'm like doing yin yoga and like genuinely doing movement that like isn't just like be uncomfortable now so that I can feel better later. It's like I just want to be comfortable in my body now and feel how good it is to be doing something that's actually good for my body and have it feel good now, which to me is just solely yoga. Like any other exercise where I feel like I'm putting in any effort and I'm trying to like get it over with. It just sends me spiraling and I just feel so resistant to it now. It's weird. It's exercise has been the one vehicle for that for me.
Isn't that interesting how it's so hard to feel physically uncomfortable and find the peace within that experience?
Yes,
It's always one leading to the other or anticipation of the other.
I'm so
It's not
sensitive to
in
that.
tandem, except meditate, like the ones that really require you to slow down,
Yes,
yoga, meditation, breath work, those
right.
kinds of things where you're meeting the discomfort here and now
Hmm.
and moving through it here and now. And the experience is here and
And
now.
that's the purpose of it.
Yeah, well, I would love to kind of tangentially use this topic to talk about business and sales really quickly,
Let's do
because
it.
I think that this is really interesting that we've both gone on our own journey as entrepreneurs, and recently we've discussed how we're noticing messaging changing and the online way of selling has been changing, but it's been feeling a little bit off to both of us. So we're kind of picking up on some stuff here and there. And this same concept of future pacing,
Mhm.
using this paradox to sell and market a product or service is
Oh,
really what's happening.
it's so heavy.
Nothing is about the present.
Yes.
And that's why I'm having so much trouble expressing what home is because it's nothing in the future. It's all in the present. And I
Yeah.
don't know how to say it. I don't know how to express it or talk about it because we don't live there.
No. No,
Isn't that
and that's not
interesting?
what selling or marketing has ever been. Like it's
Right.
always been about make this investment of your time, money, energy, effort, whatever, and then you will then be uncomfortable until you get more comfortable with something else later.
Yeah, the future
And we're
part
so
of
used
you.
to that. Yeah.
Yeah,
We're so used to that being like the way that life works. Like we just
right.
need to get uncomfortable now and push through and put in effort and like escape the now to get somewhere else that's going to be better in the future. And I love that you're bringing this up because you and I have had lots of conversations about this recently. We've both kind of, in our own way, control alt deleted ourselves from the internet. You- You're still showing up in your
I'm
ways and
still there,
I'm
but
showing up here
it's been
mostly.
hard. It's been hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just makes me want to literally vomit on my phone. And I didn't really know like why. I just know that I feel so like, oh, like I just want to over everyone on
Because
social
you're
media.
sensing this. You're
Yeah.
picking up on this trend of using the pain of the present to fuel the, the idea of the future that's going to save us from it. And
Yes.
it's perpetuating that that cycle and like that we're constantly living inside of. That's so hard to break free from. And the
Yes.
second that we focus our attention on the here and now, people lose interest
Right.
because it doesn't satisfy the egoic need to change who we are to feel better about who we are.
And what I'm really curious about, I don't know if I have evidence that this is true yet, but like what you and I are picking up on, is this a collective thing? Like maybe people don't know how to put words to it like we are right now, but
I think
is
it's
this a
feeling
collective
exhausted.
shift?
I think
Yeah.
it's feeling exhausted where it's becoming more apparent when we're being sold to. It's becoming
Yes.
more apparent when it doesn't feel like it's coming from a lived and embodied place. I can
Totally.
always pinpoint that when someone's
Yes.
talking to me, but I can I can just tell that they haven't lived it. They're just talking
Yes.
from a more like intellectual place. I can just sense it.
Yeah.
And using our wins to convince someone that they're going to feel better when they have them too, and not sharing the process, sort of tucking that to the side and not speaking into all of the resistance that is naturally going to come up in any transformational experience, whether that be money, relationships, physical health, and fitness. Literally, everything takes time, effort, consistency, and an internal and external transformation of some kind. And that
Yeah.
typically gets glossed over. And we just focus on, yeah, but look at where you're going to end up. Here's where you are, and this is where you're going to end up. What about all the in between? Where all of the shame comes up, where all of the judgment comes up, where all of the fear comes up, where all of the uncertainty rears its ugly head, where all of the discomfort and resistance lives. It doesn't just live now and then you're free from it in the future. Like it's always going to be there. And it's there throughout the process of from the now to the future. Like that stuff isn't
Yeah.
addressed.
And like, how good would it feel? I know you would agree with me on this. Like, how good would it feel to know that you could just talk to someone or show up in social media and be like, this is what I want to do with you. I want to help you bring up all the shame in your body and feel it and process it and face all of your fears and question your beliefs and like just do the deep work and cry and like really just feel the depths of your soul and like the heartache and the pain. And someone be like, sign me up. Like,
Yeah.
I would love that.
Why should somebody sign up with you for that?
But that's the thing is that it's so future based and I don't know how to do it otherwise.
But why? If you were to sit and explain what the benefit of that would be, because people are going to be listening to this and being like, why should I want that?
Sure.
Why should they want that?
I feel like there's so many answers to that question I'm hearing. I don't like any of them.
May I offer something
Sure.
that I've never expressed on the podcast because it's just come into my awareness?
Yeah.
So I was having one of my chats about the nature of consciousness with my higher self,
Casual.
and just casual, just feeling exhausted at the end of it. And she basically said that your higher self, and what I mean by that is what your higher self is, it's a form of consciousness that sees you beyond your limited human perspective. Okay.
Yeah.
It basically is the blueprint for what is possible for you. And when you can expand to the degree where you can embody your higher self inside of you, the level of consciousness, the state of being, the awareness, all of the soul gifts, all of the memories, all of that is available to you. Everything changes. You you reach this state of enlightenment. You can manifest like this. You have all of these gifts available to you, all of these knowings, all of these memories, and you feel limitlessness embodied.
Mhm.
That is literally available to you. How do you get there? How you get there is looking at all of the illusions of who you believe you are. The
Mhm.
unworthiness, the shame, the pain, the guilt, the fear, and feeling it to release it.
Mhm.
That's how. And in doing so, you don't get caught in it. And I think that's where people get stuck, is that that's not necessarily what happens. It can happen if you're not letting the process just move through you, if you're holding on to it, if there's a part of you that's resisting it.
Yeah. And there's strategies to use that to
Right.
amplify the process even further. So it's not even really stuck. It's just like, oh, here's this opportunity to go deeper into the work.
But let's talk about manifestation. Like all of these business coaches that I can help you manifest this, and the other thing, and all this money, blah, 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 blah. How do you actually do that? This,
Mhm. Yeah.
look at your pain, feel it, release it, increase your vibration, and then
Yeah.
that's how you do it. Like it's literally the basis of all of it.
Yes.
And so it, it's not focused on because it's icky and sticky, and most people don't take the time to move through it themselves, and so they're selling the more strategy based approach that's going
Hmm.
to bring all this stuff up because it's already living there inside of you.
Yes.
And so it's difficult from like a sales perspective to talk about this stuff when it's not understood why it's important.
Yeah.
And when we're not selling the feel good thing on the other side of it. But when you understand the process required because you've done it and you've been through it, then looking at someone who's not telling the whole story, it feels inauthentic.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I think that millennials, I think we're picking up on that more. We're going to therapy.
Yeah.
We're more open to that kind of thing. And we're following the traditional path and it's not working where it did before.
Hmm.
We're not feeling fulfilled. We're not making as much money. Life is hard, even though we did what we were told.
Right.
And so we
And
have to
and
address
it becomes
why.
more of a problem. Like it almost feels like now I failed at that too. Like I think that's where a lot of the heaviness lies, is that like I did all the things I was supposed to do to have the better future and to feel good about myself and blah blah blah, and I'm still suffering. So I did that wrong. And then we keep getting sold like another version of it. Well, like you're still in
Yes.
pain, so it's this now, and it's this manifestation, or it's, oh, you didn't know this about manifestations, or you didn't do this correctly, or you didn't pay enough money for it, or you still had this wound that you
Yeah.
didn't know about, or whatever. So it's just like it feels like people are trying to sell us the same thing over and over and over and over again, trying to convince us that this time it's going to be different. And I think what is changing is that we're realizing this time won't be different because we're not doing it differently.
So what would you sell somebody?
I don't even know
Because
because I'm
there's
not
an
really
ant like,
selling anything.
you know what I mean though? Like not like hypothetically,
Yeah.
what is the answer?
I just want people to meet themselves like fully, like to really know the truth of who they are. And that's something that I'm still discovering for myself, but I feel like I've done the work enough to be able to speak about it from a place of this is what I want for people because wow, like this is how I want to live this human experience is by continuing to know who I really am and to meet myself there and to fall into the illusion and then wake up out of it again and to live life with that deepest intention of knowing the truth of who I am through this human experience and the pain and the suffering that comes with it and the connections and the goals and the whatever, like that all gets to be vehicles to discover who I am versus it being the ultimate end goal.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's exactly what home is.
Yeah.
It there's no destination with it other than the felt experience of who you are. And
Right.
I think I think that that's wanted without consciously understanding that that's what's wanted. And so we keep
Yes.
looking, okay, well, what's that person offering me? What's that person offering me with? And it all sort of sounds similar, but the
Yeah.
language is inviting. And so we just still buy into it and then it doesn't work. And then we hit a low again. And then we buy into it and then it doesn't work. And then we hit a low again.
Yeah.
And so I do think that we're headed in the direction where awareness is being created,
Hmm.
but it just takes time. I think that we've come a long way. Like we've talked about this before, like the sales and marketing of in within the fitness industry has changed a lot.
Yes, so much. Yeah. What I'm really interested in to hear your reflection of, and you can share as much or as little detail as you feel comfortable with. But I know that you've gone through a lot of experience of investing in things for yourself and for your business. And there have been many where you bought into it and were very disappointed. And there have been some where you've bought into it and it did give you what you didn't know that you wanted or what
Yes.
you didn't know that you needed. And so do you have like insight and like kind of wrap up points from that summarize like how did you know or what did you learn from the experiences of investing in something and then being disappointed? And how was that different from investing in the things that actually did get you what you didn't know that you wanted?
That is such a fantastic question. And I know exactly what the answer is because
What
I've
is it?
reflected on this. When I went looking for an answer from a place of pain, I bought into the marketing
Yeah.
and felt disappointed every time
Yes.
because I was unconsciously being sold to from that. When I just let the universe send me something
Yeah.
every single time, it propelled me forward and not just tangibly, but like from a place of intrinsic personal expansion in a
Yes.
way that I could have never anticipated.
Yeah.
How do you trust that that's going to happen is the big question.
Right. Comes with experience, really.
Well, what I'm being told is there is a part of you that has to ask for what you want, and there is a part of you that has to be open to moving with the flow of life.
Right.
And that has been a big lesson for me. There's a big part of me that doesn't trust the flow of life, and so I keep trying to control my circumstances, and it doesn't work. You've
Yeah.
mentioned that. Like it was the same for you.
Yeah.
Um, And I think that we tend to operate from this place of rushing it, from this energy of pressure to get it because we have to get to that future potential where all of our happiness is lies because it doesn't lie in the present. So we have to get there quickly so that we can escape the current pain to get to the future pleasure. But when you can be okay with something happening much more slowly and gradually,
Mhm.
then you're going to be satisfied with the result. And I'm literally a testament to that because I have been through quite the journey over the last 5 years, and my external reality has not changed much. But internally, I think I have grown more internally in the last 5 years than most people do in a lifetime,
Yeah.
truly.
Yes.
And that has to then be projected on my external reality. That's the way energy works.
Yeah.
But because I continue evolving, my ideas for what I want keep evolving with me too. And so there's a lag time here where what I'm going to be creating from my energy now is going to take time,
Yeah.
but it's going to be well worth the wait.
Yeah.
Did
I
that,
really
did I answer your question?
I really sense what you're saying is like this idea of urgency being kind of like a wake up call in a way because and I resonate with that very deeply where it's like when you're urgent to get somewhere else or to escape this pain, that's where you're moving from a place that's out of alignment with source and the truth of who you are. You're operating from ego, from fear. And that's always going to lead you into experiences, into people that are going to resonate with that consciousness, right? Versus when you said, like, when you let the universe give you those experiences and lead you to those people, it's very representative of just like you let your consciousness and your energy lead the way. Like you focus more on your energy, not where you're going. And where you're going just kind of happens. You get led there when you're focused on where are you at vibrationally, what do you want to hold yourself at, and when you dip under it, low knowing how to bring yourself back up and making that the primary focus versus trying to get something outside of you to take you there.
And paradoxically, the way to do that is finding peace in the present, not in some future potential.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, they're just saying that there is no future. There's just the interpretation of the future. There's only now. And when you can live in the now without any regard for what the future is going to bring, then the future is going to reflect that right back to you, regardless.
Something that I
Even,
mentioned in our, go ahead.
no, no, go ahead.
I was gonna say in our pre-recording conversation, I mentioned Kyle Cease again. So second time I'm mentioning him in this episode, but he's such a perfect representation of someone that is selling a service in a way that is so like just it's he's not selling anything in the future. He's not selling anyone getting out of pain or getting some future potential. Like you can just feel in the way that he moves that like you want to be a part of it and you want that now. Like you want to be that now. And I don't know exactly how he does it. He's just brilliant, but something that he is so like such a representation of his brand is about the now. Like he uses now and presence a lot and he speaks very much to this idea that even like the most brilliant, abundant, love-filled, fun-filled, abundance-filled future is nothing compared to the now. And even though that's really hard to like there's so much resistance to that idea. I don't know if everyone else is going to feel this way, but to me, I just feel that that is so true. I might have
Well,
a hard time embodying it as true, but it
it
feels so
can be
true.
true if you let it be true.
Yeah.
Like bliss, pure bliss is available right now.
Yeah.
It's not, it can't be felt tomorrow. It can only be felt now.
Yeah. Because tomorrow it will be now.
I don't think that he even sells. I think that he just speaks into what he knows and invites you in.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
He lives it.
I do think that the paradigms that a lot of people are using to sell their services is going to crumble in the way that it has worked in the past is not going to work in the future.
And I think that you and I have been on the leading edge of that in the way that it's just never worked for us.
Well, I think that we unconsciously were butting up against it the whole time and
Yes.
energetically we're creating that.
That's what it feels like. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
Cool.
Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.
See you next week.